What news source do you trust the most today? If any, right?
Not a single one.
Yep. Yeah. I got 2 questions. Come on, help me out.
Oh, I'm working on it. Where'd my page go? Painted ceilings. What are your thoughts?
Huh?
Are you pro painted ceilings or not?
What? Welcome to St. Augustine this evening, the Mike Davis Show. I'm Mike Davis. It is July the 15th, and we are so glad you're here with us. Amanda's here with me. I think she's back from vacation because the sign behind me says, with producer Amanda, therefore Amanda must be here. So I read the sign when I walk in, and that tells me who's sitting next to me. Even if they're not sitting next to me when I sit down and walk in. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
How was your trip?
It was good. Baby shower went well. That's where I was. I was hosting a baby shower in my hometown.
Congratulations. This is your 4th child. We're so happy.
Not my baby.
Okay. Just had to clear that up.
Yeah. It would be adoption. It wouldn't be a belly baby shower. Yeah. So my new nephew is due in August.
Was there a reveal?
No, we already
gender
knew.
reveals are all the thing now.
Yeah, we already knew.
Did you tell people?
They told us. No, we were surprised.
Yeah, we were too.
Every time.
We never told anyone.
And we got told all the time why that was not fair and not right and how other people couldn't do it. And we're like, sorry, I guess. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
I just thought that there's so few surprises left in life.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, okay, I want to be surprised. I want to do this old school, which is the story of my life. Maybe that should be my book. I did it old school.
Old school.
Old. Well, that would be Troy's. With 2 olds is Troy's book. I'm just the regular old.
My whole thing was I got to do everything first for the baby. I got to feel the baby first. I knew I was pregnant first. Like, I got everything first. And that was the only thing he could get first. Okay. So he found out the gender before I did. And he was the one that got to tell me. And that was the only thing in the whole pregnancy that he got to know first, and he got to tell me. Everything else I got to tell him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, we got to make some money. There's huge announcements out there. Trump has picked a VP, if you have not seen that.
Yep.
So we do have a VP announcement. So we're going to definitely announce that on top of the announcement of the announcing of that. But first, let's make some money.
All of the announcings.
All of the announcings. Plus, we have the assassination attempt from this weekend.
Yeah.
To talk about, and we're going to try to bring some sanity to that. Kind of was a very interesting event. It was scary. We'll kind of go through a whole bunch of things and just some observations that both Amanda and I have. So, all right, Powell Heating and Air Conditioning. They've been serving St. Johns County for over 39 years. They have a fantastic fleet of over 10 trucks and a 15,000 square foot warehouse stocked with all kinds of parts and equipment. They're ready to serve you around the clock, and they do mean around the clock, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. You can check your clock. That's around the clock all year long. So if you need them, they will come see you. They'll help you out. We live in Florida. We have months and months of sweltering heat followed by bitter cold occasionally, and you need a great AC company to take care of you, to come service your AC unit, make sure everything's working properly so you don't have days without AC, because in Florida, you don't want that. So call Powell Heating and Air Conditioning. They've been doing a phenomenal job for over 39 years. 904-794-2665. Powell Heating and Air Conditioning.
Absolutely. Do you have dinner plans tonight? If not, join the Tringali family for dinner. You can head over to Carmelo's Pizzeria. They are locally owned and operated, voted best pizza 9 years in a row. New York style brick oven pizza. They also serve salad, subs, wings, and more. Or you could head over to 123 Burger House, voted best burger 3 years running. They've got burger, chicken, wings, salads, authentic wood-fired pizza, and ice cream for dessert. Both restaurants offer dine-in, takeout, or delivery through Bite Squad and Grubhub. The Tringali family and all their staff would love to share dinner with you tonight. Now, Bozard Ford Lincoln in St. Augustine is the best at what they do. Their goal is to make sure your time and experience buying a car is stress-free, fun, and enjoyable, and they certainly succeed. Bozard is a family-owned Ford dealership that has been in business since 1949. Bozard Ford Lincoln has been the recipient of numerous dealer awards, including being ranked #1 automotive dealership in the nation by Dealer Rater. Bozard Ford also has won back-to-back President's Awards, which is the highest honor given by Ford Motor Company. Check them out today online at bozardford.com or head down and have a burger with the Bozard family. I hear the Jiffy Burger's nice. The 904 Now Jiffy
It's
Burger.
nice that they finally added that for those guys.
Yeah.
It's about time, after years and years of begging on that show, that they finally got a burger named after
That's
them.
nice.
Somebody said it's the top-selling burger
That's what I hear.
in one part of the restaurant.
Rude.
I'm just kidding. These guys are awesome. It's a great burger. One day I'll try it. Salomon Services. It's middle of the summer, so if you still want your ute, your child, your middle school, high school, or college children to get in better shape and be better athletes next year when they compete, go see Salomon Services Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. They have training classes for middle school, high school, and college from 4 to 5 p.m., 5 to 6 p.m., and 8 to 9 p.m. Also, for all the rest of us that are just trying to fight middle age and elderly age and all of the other ages and try to stay in great shape to be able to go exercise or get in better shape and just for the first time ever, go see Salomon Services. Great trainers. They're all certified through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Phenomenal gym facility with both indoor and outdoor turf areas. I may or may not be there tomorrow, depending on the surf.
Oh, yeah?
Might be waves tomorrow.
Might be out on the ocean.
I might be doing aqua therapy.
Yeah.
And today is the 15th. We talked about this. It's World Youth Skills Day. So Ute Skills Day. I'm afraid to even ask. When I was a kid, boy, we could make up our own Olympics.
What were your youth skills?
I don't even know that I want to talk about that.
No? Okay.
No, I thought it was like
Off the record?
sports stuff, but it probably really wasn't.
Yeah.
So. All right, a huge announcement before we get to everything that happened on Saturday and the fallout on Sunday and even fallout through today.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance has been tapped, selected, picked by former President Donald Trump to be his running mate this time. I think J.D. Vance checks a lot of boxes for conservatives.
Yeah, I think he does.
So,
Senator out of Ohio?
Senator out of Ohio. You know, it's kind of interesting because if you pick somebody from a purple state, you could lose them. And Ohio has trended more and more red.
Yeah.
More and more Republican. So I feel like the first time Trump won, having picked him, you could have lost Ohio, right? Because he won Ohio both times, but barely the first time. Much more convincingly this time. And Ohio is, like I said, has trended deeper and deeper red. So I think picking him, you don't have to be concerned that, hey, we could get somebody in the Senate that will be difficult. Because difficult senators are the ones that is like, I just want to be a problem to my party.
Yeah.
Joe Manchin did it. Manchin did it for years with the Democratic Party. Senator McCain did it for decades with the Republican Party.
Yeah.
Anytime there was an opportunity to grandstand and make sure that people knew you were a Republican, but you would vote with the Democrats or frustrate the Republicans, he never missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
Never did.
John McCain is why we still have Obamacare. And I will never forgive him for that. Never, ever, ever. Davey says Marco Rubio is so upset right now.
Well,
I mean, maybe
you rarely see. Yes, go ahead.
I mean,
I'm interrupting you.
he's probably upset because he has very high aspirations, But I feel like he sort of sealed his fate when he immediately backtracked the primary issue he was elected to help make happen when he was a freshman senator.
So I will predict this. If Ron DeSantis ran against Marco Rubio, Ron DeSantis would beat Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that DeSantis is more popular than Rubio in the state of Florida.
I agree.
I think Rubio potentially has a place if he wants his out in politics and he doesn't want to stay in the Senate for forever. He should ask Trump for a position in the cabinet. I think there's things that Marco can be very good at there. But I agree with you. Marco got to Washington, D.C., immediately sat down in a room full of Democrats and got conned into backing a horrible bill, which immediately sank him with Republicans.
Yeah.
He's been fighting to recover from that ever since.
He's been treading water ever since.
Yes. So I think that's a huge...
If I ever have a chance to vote for a better Republican over Marco Rubio, then I will do that.
I just gave you the opportunity. I said Ron DeSantis should run. So it's 2 years from now. Marco's back up again, right?
Yeah.
Is it 2 years?
Maybe.
I can't remember.
I'll check if my computer will work.
I think he beat Val Demings, but I think that was 2 years ago when
22
in 22. So it would be a while. By that point in time, I would say DeSantis is running on a bigger, larger stage.
That's right. I think he beat Val Demings because it was a little will he or won't he. So yeah, I think you're right. I think he's 4 years.
Yeah. J.D. Vance. I like J.D. Vance. I don't know a ton about him. I was happy with most of the picks he had coming down.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that were not happy with Doug Burgum from out west.
Yeah.
North Dakota. The South Dakota woman is not. Kristi Noem shot herself. Excuse me, shot her dog. And that ended it. You don't brag about that.
Yeah, I mean,
so happy that came out before
that's a conversation to have with other agricultural farm people and not for general pop. And that's just a blind spot for her. She grew up around people that had dogs as more employees than pets. And that's not a general pop conversation.
All of her friends read that and were like, oh yeah, we get that.
Yeah.
The rest of the country that lives in urban areas, like, we don't get that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just that. But I think it's great that he Trump announced and picked someone. I think the announcement was probably going to come sooner, but Joe Biden continues to struggle post-debate performance. And I think Trump just decided, I'm not pushing that off the stage. Donald Trump has been very disciplined in his messaging.
Yeah.
The last few months. And it's been very interesting to watch that. I don't know who's advising him right now, but I would be very curious whether he just had a huge change of heart. And he has a huge opportunity coming up, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But it'll be.
Davey brought up the Vance comparing Trump to Hitler thing. And he wants to know what your thoughts are on that.
All right, enlighten me on the Vance comparing Trump.
Okay, so there's an article in MSNBC from...
Oh, that means I immediately distrust it, but go ahead.
From April 19th, 2022.
Okay.
And it's saying, let's see, it's written it's funny. J.D. Vance had a well-established record of bashing Donald Trump before ultimately groveling for and winning the former president's endorsement. So it talks about an unearthed Facebook message from 2016, which shows just how shameless Vance's pivot from Trump skeptic to sycophant has truly been. On Monday, Democratic...
wait a minute, let's just back up. I love the term skeptic to sycophant. Right? So he went from somebody who was skeptical of Donald Trump, which the news media currently is incredibly skeptical and biased against Trump. So if anybody should know what skepticism of President Trump was, these guys should. Sycophant is a bit, it has such a negative connotation. Of all the words you could use for that, that is such a biased word to put into that
Well, it's
sentence.
MSNBC. So
Again, I said I was distrustful from the beginning of this read, but go ahead.
They're going to cast it in as negative a light as possible. All right. So, on Monday, Democratic Georgia State Rep Josh McLaren, Vance's old college roommate, tweeted that what Vance had said in a message he received. So he said, according to McLaren's tweet, he said that Vance messaged him, quote, "I go back and forth between thinking Trump might be a cynical a-hole like Nixon, who wouldn't be that bad and might even prove useful, or he might be America's Hitler." So that's what McLaren tweeted that was in a message from J.D. Vance. And what I would say to that is, in 2016, Trump was an unknown quantity, and a lot of Republicans were speculating about the cult of personality with Donald Trump. The cult of personality with Donald Trump was very, very scary in 2016 to a lot of Republicans, including myself. I saw Trump supporters as sort of mindless brown shirts. And so I get that comparison, and I get where J.D. Vance was coming from. And I even made comparisons like that myself, because Trump was an unknown quantity, and it was very scary to me how people just seemed to mindlessly follow him. I didn't get the appeal at all. And so I was not on the Trump train until literally, like, I was never on the Trump train, but I didn't know who I was voting for in 2016 until minutes before I actually cast the vote.
If you had listened to our radio show, Troy and I would have argued it for months, and you would have known all the ins and outs of that. Mm-hmm. I agree with a lot of your analysis of what you just said, that the establishment people do not like somebody who doesn't depend on them for money or for fame or for a connection to the people. And Donald Trump, who is a billionaire, made a connection with working class people. And the party didn't like that, because it meant, well, wait a minute, all of a sudden we're not as important. So party leaders were never in the bag for Trump. The one who was really interesting for me, who eventually came around, was Rush Limbaugh. There are very few times that I listened to Rush over 30 years that Rush didn't have his finger on the pulse of what conservatives were thinking. And with Donald Trump, he had no idea. If you listen to Rush's radio shows, when Trump first got in the race, I think Rush bought into this, well, he'll be out shortly. And it just took Rush a long time to figure out.
If I remember, Rush was more a Ted Cruz guy, and I was too.
Yes.
Ted Cruz was what I wanted. I wanted someone who was obviously conservative, that was articulate and I guess articulate on policy and knowledgeable of the law and can quote the Constitution like drop of a hat. That's who I wanted. I did not want Trump at all. And Trump, the idea of Trump alone scared me. But ultimately, Hillary Clinton scared me more. And it came down to Obamacare. We already mentioned it. I hate Obamacare. I had a child before Obamacare. I had a child after Obamacare. And I can tell you that the cost with the maternity coverage, and no one should not have maternity coverage, the cost of having a baby under Obamacare's, everyone gets maternity coverage, even humans with penises. It was 3 times more expensive to have a baby 2.5 years apart, 2 years, 9 months apart, and the only difference was frickin' Obamacare. So Trump was the only chance I saw at maybe getting rid of Obamacare, and McCain ruined it, and I'll never forgive him for it. But that was the only reason why I voted for Donald Trump, and I did so with a pit in my stomach, and I was terrified.
Right, I had a pit in my stomach when I voted for McCain and Romney. Wasn't happy about either one of those.
I was more happy about casting those votes in the moment. But I ultimately have been happier with the job done by Trump than anything that McCain and Romney did after I voted for them.
Well, it's going to be interesting because pre-Saturday, J.D. Vance's comments are a firestorm, right? They'll take it out of context. Post-Saturday, the media is going to have a hard time, and maybe they're just going to like lay low for 2 weeks and then throw the switch back on, and we're right back to all the rhetoric that we've had for years about Donald Trump. But
They already are doing it.
It's hard to throw that rhetoric in light of what happened on Saturday. And every time you say that and you remember what Trump has been through because somebody decided I have to take matters into my own hands, which we haven't gotten to that story yet.
Yeah.
But I just, the Hitler comparison post-Saturday is going to have a hard time holding water.
Yeah.
And a lot of that depends on what Trump and the Republicans do this week at the convention.
Yeah.
If they tone down the rhetoric against Joe Biden, leave Joe alone, talk about the policies that they want to implement. And I mean, Joe, there's a whole host of things you could say about Joe.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear those, the Democratic Party is having an ongoing conversation about what they are right now. You could just tune into any Democrat show and watch, and you'll hear Trump doesn't have to introduce it.
Yeah.
Right now, the Republicans have an opportunity to say, hey, we want unity. Whatever we were going to attack Joe on, we're scaling that back. We're going after policies. We're going after the idea of what our agenda should be, how we can help the average American, how the things that we would implement as Republicans can go. I think Trump also kind of took a pretty good swipe at Agenda 2025, Project 2025, mainly the abortion stuff today. Which I think is a very good position for him to have. He's much more moderate on that than a lot of your very, very staunch conservatives.
And that was one of the reasons why I didn't like him, because I didn't trust him on the abortion issue, and he turned out to be the most pro-life president in my lifetime. As far as actions go, his words and his hyperbole and what he says are very different than how he governs.
He has an opportunity, like I said, to really ratchet this back. If you go right back into, you can't say on Sunday, we need to be unified as a country, and then Monday ramp up this political 4 nights of bashing the hell out of Joe Biden, right? And I really think you have to change the messaging of this. If you do that, I think you win over those moderate swing voters that all gave Trump the middle finger in 2020 because they were tired of how bombastic he was and how petty he was at times.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he could say, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for Joe. I really feel like Joe should be enjoying his, what is he, 80 now?
Yes.
Enjoying his 80s by a lake with a cocktail.
Well, he does that every weekend.
I don't think I'm saying what he could say.
I know.
Like, he should be enjoying his 80s, you know, by the water with a cocktail. And I don't really believe that I'm going to be running against him in the fall. So let's just, you know, wait until we see who the candidate is before I make that case. And then just talk about what he's going to do.
Well, I think some of it too is you come out as a Republican and you say, it doesn't matter who the Democratic nominee is. These are their policies. You've lived through them for the last 4 years. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Most Americans that are working class Americans will tell you they're not. As an example, I have a college buddy who, very Democrat, put a post on Facebook this weekend, and he says, hey, that darn stock market is double what it used to be. And I wanted to say, hey, tell me you're an elitist without telling me you're an elitist.
Yeah.
Working class and lower class people have not benefited from the stock market doubling.
Well, because
billionaires, the guys that you hate, have benefited from that. People that have a 401k have benefited from that.
Tell me the average American that has enough extra income to be tossing it around in such a volatile thing as the frickin' stock market. Yeah. Like, I don't know anyone who is my age who's just playing around in the stock market because they have so much extra income. Like, I guess that's really broad. I'm sure I know somebody. They don't talk about it if they do. But like, the people in my day-to-day life are struggling. They're getting extra jobs. They're not cashing out in the stock market right now. That's as elitist as a friend of ours saying it doesn't matter how much groceries cost in the presidential election. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I completely. But anyway, so back to that. So Saturday afternoon, I get a phone call. I'm sitting having an adult beverage. and immediately turn to the news and start watching the video footage of President Trump being shot at, hitting him in the right ear, and how lucky and close. Some have said a quarter inch, some said half an inch. Everybody that I've talked to, including an avid hunter today, said that's a shot that if he took someone, put him in the right position, put the gun in the right position, it would be hard to miss.
Well,
so the fact that he turned his head at the instant he did, and I believe he credits it to slide on that he was trying to show people. Yep.
Which he hadn't really planned to do. I was driving when all this went down and my phone started blowing up with text messages, and that's how I found out. So I've watched and rewatched the footage over and over again. He hadn't intended to show the slide, and he asks his people to pull up the slide if they have it, and they pull it up, and then he's praising them for how fast they were able to, change which as a producer, that's not necessarily a fun thing to do, to have to dig through your images and pull something up on the fly while there's 30,000 people waiting for it. So, kudos to them for getting that up so fast. If they had been too slow, then who knows what we would be talking about right now. So he pulls up a slide he wasn't intending to, and then he's talking about it. And a reporter that's followed him a lot said that when Trump talks, he doesn't just turn his head. Typically, he turns his whole body. And so this was one of the only times she can think of him not turning his whole body. He just turned his head at the neck. And that was another thing that was different and unusual and might have saved his life.
Yeah. I think it's divine intervention if you have somebody that close with a gun that everyone tells you that's a makeable shot, right? And
it's such a makeable shot that this kid didn't make the cut on his shooting team in high school. He was so bad that he didn't make the shooting team in his high school. Yeah. So, this was not a marksman. This was a 20-year-old who did not have skill. Everyone wants to talk about, changing gun laws. The gun was legally purchased by his father. He stole it. It's already illegal to steal a gun. So it's just...
Well, I don't know if you caught... So a lot of things, just me observations, right? Because there's been a lot of talk about this. And I think it's a divine intervention that Trump is still here.
Yeah.
And I hope that Trump continues to evolve. And as odd as this sounds, if he could be somebody who could bring the country together, that would be an amazing thing. I don't know that people on the left will ever give him that opportunity because of the visceral hatred they have for him.
There were lots of people screaming, so angry that this kid missed.
There were people that lost their jobs over it. There was a firefighter in Pennsylvania that posted. There was a congressional aide that had some inappropriate posts. I'm sure there were lots of other people as well. But some of it that was absolutely amazing was the original headlines, right?
Yeah.
So CNN's original headline.
Oh, it was great.
And somebody got them immediately, said, CNN beats the Babylon Bee.
I got a screenshot of that, of CNN's original headline. I can show it if you want.
Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service because of a loud noise.
The headline was Trump's speech interrupted by Secret Service.
Yes. Trump falls and is escorted off the stage was another headline.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. Here's the most outrageous one from Forbes. This is the most outrageous one. So we talked a little bit earlier. Tell me you're an elitist without telling me you're a elitist. Tell me you're a racist without telling me you're a racist. Okay. Headline in Forbes: Will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters? So what you're telling me is you write
what a remarkable cell phone.
You write for a magazine that thinks that all black voters are being shot at all the time.
Or can relate to being shot at all the time.
I'm sorry, that's just completely. Whoever wrote that for Forbes,
dude,
I don't. You really ought to rethink your thought process. Get out of the silo a little bit. Go talk to some average, everyday people, because that's just a horrible, horrible headline.
Good gracious!
I mean, just in the whole, that's just bad. Some
might say that's a microaggression.
I I just think that's showing an incredible bias and thought process on how you think some of your fellow Americans live every day. If you think that gunshots...
Well, the urban folk are into people who have survived gunshots. Look at the rappers.
Yes.
Come on, guys. Really?
So I thought that some of those first headlines... my other observation...
Steve Forbes is proud of that one?
Probably not.
But he's so glad his name's right next to that one.
And there's going to be a lot more Monday morning quarterbacking about the Secret Service. But here's just an observation.
There's a lot with the Secret Service.
There's a lot with the Secret Service. You have a head of the Secret Service who's bound and determined to get more diversity within the Secret Service. 30% of the agents are supposed to be female. So if your idea of an agent, and I don't know who the agents were there yesterday, but when I look at a Secret Service agent or I look at somebody that's on a security detail, I think I ought to be slightly intimidated by them. When I looked at some of the people that were on Trump's Secret Service detail, certain ones, the women that were under 5'10", I was not intimidated by.
Well,
also, when you have a 6'3" person that you protectee that you're supposed to be taking care of, and you go surround them with people, whether they're men, women, I don't care what ethnicity, and they're under 6 foot tall, vital organs are exposed.
Yeah.
I want a security detail. If I'm 6'3", I want a security detail where everyone on it is 6'8".
And the iconic photo that everyone has seen with him with his fist raised and the bloody ear and Secret Service crowded around him, there is a very small woman in front of him, and she's bending down. And some say she's picking up his MAGA hat. Maybe she is. I'm sure he has more than one. Like, maybe guard his heart over picking up his MAGA hat. Like, the one person that was in front of center mass is shorter than me, and she's bending down. Her head is about at his belly button, and his full chest is exposed, much less his head and his neck.
And I look at this the way I look at everything in life. I want the most competent person doing the job.
Yeah, I don't care about diversity. I want 100% competency.
I want competency, right? So if I look at people and I say, well, somebody's been hired because they're not competent, but because they check other boxes, I then worry about the competency of that person. Yeah. I don't care color, creed, ethnicity, religion. I don't care. I want competency, right? So if there's female Secret Service agents who can't shoot as good as somebody that's a man, I want the man to do the job.
Yeah.
I also will tell you this. I know there are Secret Service women out there and there are women in the armed forces that could kick my rear end. I want them where they're at.
Yeah.
I want them to be incredible. If Ronda Rousey is a Secret Service, I'm not messing with anybody, right? Now she's short, which doesn't help the whole height thing, but there's everybody that's under a certain height, I put on certain people that's your detainee. You don't get to do the presidential one if you can't protect the president.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be protecting the vice president. You shouldn't be protecting their children. I look at this, I just want competency, right? I really don't give a rat's rear end about what the makeup ethnicity-wise or gender is inside the Secret Service. I just want it filled with badasses. Yeah. I just want it filled with people who are willing to risk their life, throw themselves over their protectee, and I want them to be able to shoot and fight. I looked at that woman that picked up the hat. If Donald Trump was down on the stage, she can't drag him off the stage.
No.
There's no way. I'm going to tell you what, I don't know if I can drag Donald Trump off stage.
That's why I'm not there.
But you know what? I want somebody who can.
Yeah.
I want that to be part of the requirement. You can get, if she had to pick him up and put him in the car, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
There's no way.
If that bullet had hit something more vital, then half the people on that stage would not have been able to get him off of the stage. Now, it's pointed out in comments, and I've seen these videos as well, that civilians kept telling the police that they saw a man climbing up on a rooftop and that he had a weapon. And there is a video where it shows 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes of people pointing out that this man is very visibly climbing up onto a roof, and people were able to see the weapon that was there. They tell the police, all of this is happening in this 2-minute video that you can find. They tell the police where the guy is. They're pointing him out. You can hear it in the video. He's up there. He's up there. He's up there. He's got a weapon. And the police officer climbs the ladder behind him to go see him. He is met with the muzzle and he climbs back down. Trump is still speaking for a number of seconds after that. So that man was not armed. That police officer was not armed. Why is he there working the crowd? Why is he there as security with an elected official unarmed, for one? And for two, why was there not an immediate alarm and Trump off the stage at that moment? Mm-hmm. There's a solid 5 seconds, at least, of Trump speaking where he could have been ushered off the stage, and perhaps no one is injured, no one is dead today. This was not well handled.
No. Well, and there were several Democrats, Bernie Thompson being one of them. He was one of the chairs of the January 6th investigation, that wanted a bill introduced that if you were convicted of a felony, you were no longer allowed to have Secret Service protection. There's stories that the Trump team had been asking for additional protection and not granted that additional protection. We've already railed on the fact that RFK Jr. Does not have Secret Service protection. A man whose father and uncle gave their lives in pursuit of political service of this country, and they will not give him Secret Service. That is bullshit.
Yeah.
I am sorry. That's one guy that the day he said, I'm thinking about it, somebody in the Secret Service should have called and said, how many people do you want?
Yeah.
We're not going to lose another Kennedy running for office. I wouldn't vote for the Kennedys. I'm not a fan of the Kennedys. I don't like their policies, but there's no way you should let RFK go around this country without protective detail based on what his family has had to suffer.
Exactly.
It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
And
but yeah, I think there's just, this is the problem when you're more concerned about what things look like than actually being effective.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, I don't think this is any different from a lot of different bureaucracies that are being run in the government right now. Unfortunately, there's lots of stories about the military going through this as well. When you send those people into battle that are not prepared to be in battle, they will not survive. They will not. You could go read any military history you want to. When you don't care about the training and you don't care about having the best people in those roles, and then you send them into battle or you send them into harm's way, bad things happen. And it's not the fault of the person that said, oh, well, you get this job because you check a box. It's the fault of the person that created the chart that had to have the boxes checked in the first place.
I think it's the fault of a lot of people. But she has come out and said that they're doing nothing differently for the RNC as far as security. She doesn't even make the pretense that perhaps maybe we should increase security because there's a slightly greater risk at this moment than perhaps there was when they formulated the security plan.
Hey, right now, well, I'm not a Secret Service person. I can just look at this. That rooftop, why somebody wasn't on it is beyond me, because it had a clear line of sight. I've also heard a story, and again, all of this is in what I would call the fog of war, right? We'll learn more details as this goes on. But I've heard a story that one of the snipers was actually asking to be able to take the shot. That they saw him, they had him in the sights, and they were asking, and they were not allowed to take the shot.
Have you seen the vantage point, the video footage, where you can see that sniper?
I've only seen pictures from the ground. I've not seen anything elevated.
So in the video footage, someone's over here, Trump's here, and the sniper's there, right? So you can see Trump in the right edge of the video, and then you can see the sniper on the roof, and then the gunman's over here. So you can see the sniper tense up. You can see him lift up over the scope and look over the rifle, and then go back to the scope, change the rifle position, and that's when firing starts. So you can see him, see that person. He or she cranes their neck over the rifle. So repositions their body up over the rifle so they're no longer at the ready, and then back at the scope firing starts, and then they return.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I will tell you, if I was Donald Trump, he has the money to have private security. He probably has had private security in the past.
Yeah.
I might have a few more private security.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Does he have? He obviously doesn't have private snipers.
No, I fully get all that, but I might hire 10 big guys to and look, whenever you let your guard down is when these things happen. And you read all these books and you read stuff. If you're trying to defend something, you have to be right 100 times. If you're trying to attack it, you just got to get it right once. And that is such a difference of opinion of, okay, who's successful and who's not.
Yeah.
Some other kind of observations. There was a GoFundMe site that went up. It raised over $3 million for the victims. There was one firefighter who lost his life. There were a couple other that were wounded because obviously those bullets that missed Trump hit the crowd behind Trump.
Yeah.
People on the
comparatori. I haven't heard it said. Comparatori.
Yes.
He's father of two. Firefighter. He was 50 years old. He had just recently celebrated his birthday, and he shielded his families with his body.
A hero.
Yeah.
Right. And people on the left started complaining about Trump fundraising. Trump wasn't fundraising.
He wasn't fundraising for himself.
Trump endorsed this to fundraise for this family whose father, husband, all of those things, lost his life because he went to a political rally, which is completely unacceptable, right? Come on. Those of you that watch this show for a long time, not shocking, I'm not a Joe Biden fan. I have never wished ill upon Joe Biden. I do not want someone to shoot at Joe Biden. I don't want anything bad to happen to Joe Biden, except maybe lose at a ballot box. I would love to see that. But I don't want to see anything else of it. That's not the way this country is supposed to be. If you want that, there's plenty of other places around the world you can live and chaos reigns there. Yeah. I do not want to see this kind of chaos in our country.
If you want to give money to the GoFundMe, it's search for support for Butler PA victims. It's the one that President Trump authorized, and it's raised $4.4 million as of right now.
Which is phenomenal and awesome. Mm-hmm. And those that gave, thank you. And please keep those families in your prayers because they went to a rally to see someone that was running for office to participate in the democratic process, and they lost a loved one.
Yeah.
So yes. The other couple of things, Morning Joe was off air this morning. So apparently they were worried that Morning Joe, whose panel constantly compares Donald Trump to all kinds of horrible things, would say something stupid this morning. So they kept Morning Joe off the air, which ought to tell you the level of ridiculousness that they have spouted towards people on the left that watch them every single morning and that buy into this crap. Donald Trump is not he's not an authoritarian. I mean, we had this discussion with Lenny last Thursday. Donald Trump is not an authoritarian. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that people that weaponize the justice system are worried that Donald Trump will come after them. It's it's like, seriously, you're really worried about that? And on another note today, Judge Cannon threw out the documents case.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, it got thrown out today because she said Jack Smith was...
Which one was that again?
Which one was that? Was not appointed properly, and so he has to go. And the case was completely dismissed. So this is the one where they raided Mar-a-Lago with live ammunition 2 years ago.
Oh.
Jack Smith.
Oh, the classified documents.
Yes, case. Classified documents, Mar-a-Lago. Right. So Judge Cannon tossed it.
So they raided a former president with weapons and authorization to shoot, and it was all for nothing.
Yes. All right. So
it turned out that former vice president, who had less authority to have documents, had them in a less secure place.
Yes.
Weird. That's awkward.
So I guess Trump storing them in a locked area
that had already been checked out by the archivist and approved by the archivist, as long as they added this lock that they requested, which he did.
It would have been much safer if Trump had a Corvette. And I'll leave it at that.
And old Office Depot paper boxes.
Yes. So also this weekend, I received my St. Johns County Citizens Guide to the 2024 primary. So those of you that vote, and I think these go out to every single household.
Everyone with a mailbox.
Everyone with a mailbox. Vicki Oakes, our supervisor of elections.
She's amazing.
Is amazing. Letting you know that Election Day is August the 20th for the primary. Early voting is August 10th to 17th. And voter registration and party change deadline is next Monday, July the 22nd.
You need to change party affiliation.
If you want to change your party affiliation, because most of these races will be decided by Republicans, because we do have a closed primary. Democrats receive a Democratic ballot. Republicans receive a Republican ballot.
If you are an NPA and you want to participate in primaries, you have until Monday to become a non-MPA.
That's right.
And then you can always go back to MPA after the primary if you like it.
And this is how we change who leads us by voting, not by what happened on Saturday.
I would love a primary challenge for Marco Rubio from an actual conservative that doesn't flip-flop and lie.
I like what I'm doing right now.
Come on now.
I like what I'm doing right now. I don't want to do that. All right. So we're glad Trump has survived. We're sorry that people lost their lives. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking about what the Secret Service could have done, should have done.
Corey's daughter wrote a really beautiful tribute to her father. And it's, if you haven't found it, then you should find it. It's really moving.
Why don't you link that?
Okay.
So our listeners can read that and see that, because I think that is something that's very, very important.
Okay.
So
finding.
But yes. And Democrats need to tone it down. Certain Republicans need to tone it down. Let's figure this thing out at the ballot box. And a lot of these issues that the media would have you fighting and screaming and yelling at your neighbors about are issues that neither one has solved for my lifetime, and I will be 58 shortly. So they've had 60 years to fix this, and they haven't done it, and they want you to argue over it. Quit arguing it over it and send people that'll fix the problem.
Well, we were talking today. I was at a homeschool mom training, equipping situation. Again today, I go to lots of these. We were talking today how they took debate and logic out of the core subjects in education before I ever went to school. So at least 2 generations ago, that was removed from the common education curriculum. And now we have people that have no idea about logic, have no idea about logical fallacies, have no idea what a proper debate is or how to structure a well thought out and valid argument. They're the ones that are representing us. And we're the ones voting for them because we don't know it either unless you've sought out that information, and very few people have. And then we're wondering why people who have never been trained on policy debate or debate in general are completely ineffectual once they get into these elected positions. And we wonder why Americans keep electing them, because they don't know that they don't know anything about logic or debate. They don't recognize the fallacies in their debate. You start teaching children logical fallacies and valid arguments and true arguments and put them in front of political debates, and they will call out fallacy after fallacy, invalid argument, circular reasoning. They will do it left and right. Children are running circles around adults right now in debate because we just don't teach it. And then we're confused why nothing is getting done.
Send them to me. I will beat them soundly and send them back to class. Ask Lenny from last week.
Good luck.
I love talking to Lenny. Lenny's not so much a debate. Lenny's a good conversationalist, and we disagree on what the policy should be, but we have a great conversation about it, which is very hard to do today.
Yes.
Because as Barbara Jean said, some people just block you. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people that I'm friends with on Facebook that have offended me with posts about Donald Trump that are completely ridiculous. because they've gotten it from some media source that wants you to hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just go, I'm not unfriending them. I'm just going to move on. They're misguided. They've misinterpreted this. They've got bad information. And they're way too emotional about something that they shouldn't be this emotional about.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm sure I've said things on this show that have made people mad. Melissa, I apologize again for what I'm about to say later in the show and tomorrow.
I apologize.
I love Melissa. So
I do love Melissa.
Anyway.
Haven't seen you for a while, Melissa. Welcome back.
She was in the comments the other day. Yep. And I really do love that she listens. I tell her that all the time. I appreciate her. So 5 questions. We only have 3. We're going to try to get to the other 5.
We got this one.
Okay.
You like that one?
So let's do this one first. And I would love for those of you that are online to comment about this. What news source do you trust today? Someone was commenting that, Davey, I think, that Pete said, hey, watch the overseas news. You'll get news faster there than you will in the United States. So what news source do you trust today?
I don't trust any one news source anymore. I don't trust anything until I've read it from multiple sources.
Okay.
That's just the way it is. I cross-reference everything.
Well, as a journalism major, I graduated with a journalism degree before I went and got a degree in building construction. And for me, you had to have 2 to 3 sources, right? So there are times people have sent me some very incendiary stuff, some very provocative stuff, and I refuse to take the bait until I've found a couple other sources that confirm it, but not by the one source, right? By a different one.
Yeah.
So there's times Troy and I would go on air and I'd have a story in front of me, but I only had one source with a minute to go and I didn't have time to find the other source.
Yeah.
And the next morning there'd be, 3 corroborations of that in the news. I'm like, well, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
There's not much news I trust right now. I think everybody writes from a slanted perspective. I think everybody has a view. They're trying to sell you more than just tell you what's going on. And so I just don't, I really don't trust them. I like watching Gutfeld because I can laugh about the news, which I feel like that I need that to be able to laugh about what's going on today. Man, Tim Gauze. What is the Stoida? Is that something that's been around for a while?
You almost got me. You almost got me. Almost.
It's so close. That show that's on in the morning is very good because I will tell you, Pete Melfi is very objective about what he presents, and he doesn't hold anything back. And I like that about Pete. I will watch Bill Maher occasionally. I don't agree with all of Bill's opinions or views, but and I laugh at about a third of his jokes, although last week 2/3 of them were about Biden, so I thought he was the funniest he's ever been. But I like his kind of take on things. I think some of it is I would love to have a real conversation with him one day about some of the thoughts that he has, but I'll never get that opportunity.
He's very selective with who he allows on his show.
Tim, you don't get the important news from The Simpsons. You get the important predictions about what the future will look like. There is a difference. The Simpsons make Nostradamus look like a child when it comes to predicting the future. Nostradamus, like 40 years from now, they'd be like, we have an opportunity to show this show about Nostradamus, this guy from the Middle Ages who predicted all this stuff, or we can run The Simpsons. And everyone's gonna be like, run The Simpsons. They had it the best.
Yeah.
Run The Simpsons. So, yeah, I think of this. So for me, I kind of like getting different opinions. I don't always agree. I used to be able to watch even Rachel Maddow until she went over the deep end, and I couldn't do it anymore. Yeah. It's like Rachel
Trump broke some people's brains.
Oh my gosh, yes he did.
Like legit broke some people's brains. They're just incapable at this point of looking past anything. Although everyone has called Trump Orange Man for a long time. The people that don't like him typically use the Orange Man, and it's become kind of a meme, Orange Man bad. But Biden, right after the debate, got a really tragic spray tan, and he out-oranged the Orange Man.
Yes. I heard Trump told his spray tan guy, if I see Biden look better than me again in orange, you're fired.
I heard that Trump's campaign whispered to Biden's campaign who the best spray tan guy was, and they gave him bad information on purpose. That's what I heard.
I think Andy, part of Andy's comment, I once enjoyed politics. Unfortunately, it has devolved into a level of adolescence. I don't think it's devolved into an adolescence. I think it's devolved into a shouting match, which adolescents would never do because they're occupied on their phones. But it's devolved into a shouting match
matches are a lot of work.
that no one fixes anything. So for me, it's like, hey, if you're not going to fix it, why are we talking about it? Let's fix it. Let's get a plan for it. Let's move this thing forward. Let's go.
Reinstate logic and debate in all education paradigms.
Okay. All right. Next question. Favorite patriotic song?
Favorite patriotic song? I really love God Bless America, but the Navy's hymn makes me cry every time.
The Navy or the Marine Corps?
The Navy's hymn.
Okay.
Yeah. The Navy's song is a hymn. And there's just something about it. Those in peril on the sea, like it brings me to tears every time.
You grew up in a Navy town.
I grew up in an Air Force town, but I was always around the water and I've lived on boats.
Keely's got a great
one is a good one.
And that's a phenomenal song.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when that song rose to prominence, I was on a clogging team.
Yep.
In North Carolina, and we welcomed home. We had a pen pal program with the troops that were over for the first Gulf War, and we invited any of them to come to our elementary school for a celebration and to be honored when they got home. And a lot of them did. A lot of them, like 4 or 5 did. And so I was part of the welcoming committee. We would clog dance. The school was named after cornbread, and we would present them with cornbread. It was a whole thing. But
jalapeno cornbread or just regular cornbread?
Just regular cornbread.
Okay.
And there was a girl that would sing Lee Greenwood's song, and so that song's always meant a lot to me too.
Yeah, I think that one's a great one. I'm a traditionalist. I love the Star Spangled Banner, but don't ask me to ever sing it. I mean, I know the words to it. It's just such a hard.
That's why that's not one of my favorites. That C, that high C, man.
It's really, really.
It'll get ya.
Davey Hartzell throws out Miley Cyrus.
Party in the USA. You play that in my house, my girls will be so excited and my son will become irrationally angry. Oh, he cannot.
So you're teaching them about politics at an early age.
They're learning how to cross divisions real early. Oy vey. It's a thing.
So the assassination attempt of Donald Trump the other day. Kind of one of those events that has an opportunity to change the times, right? You think about Kennedy's assassination, Lincoln's assassination. You think about events, the attempted assassination on Reagan. I was in high school at the time. I was a freshman. So
when was that, 83, 85?
1981 is when that happened.
Oh, okay.
1981.
I might not have been born yet.
No, you were not born yet. So
when in 81?
during your lifetime, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, right? So during your lifetime, what event that has impacted the United States do you think was the one that was had the biggest impact on you? Right. And I think about the Challenger blowing up on liftoff. I was walking across campus at Florida Southern. I was facing west. If I'd been walking the other way, I would have seen the entire thing. The discovery on reentry. We mentioned Reagan. I think 9/11 for me was the one that really hit the heart, just because of the massive loss of life and how it took a day that was just an average, ordinary day and turned it into one of the most horrible days.
It was a gorgeous day in New York.
It was, yeah.
So it was 9/11 for me. I was a college student on Long Island, New York. At the time, it was our second day of classes. My parents were supposed to be, my dad had never spent much time in New York City. And so my mom was going to show my dad around, and they had been looking at tours. So they were supposed to be in the city on a bus tour that would have been taking them close to the World Trade Center around that time. But my dad decided last minute that he'd rather stay in the Hamptons to spend more time with me than to go into the city. So that's the only reason why they weren't in the city when it happened. It was a beautiful day. It was just, the weather was perfect. The skies were blue and clear, and it was a gorgeous day until it wasn't. So every dorm building on my campus had someone that worked in the buildings or in the buildings surrounded that they could not reach their loved one. And my college was sort of notorious for never canceling classes. I believe we were the only school on Long Island that held classes that day. So I had to go to my evening class that night, which was psychosomatic illnesses. And we had a very interesting discussion that night about...
you guys actually had class?
We had class. We were one of the only schools
wow.
That didn't cancel class, I think, in the tri-state area. And like I said, I had psychosomatic illnesses, and my professor actually showed up because individual professors did cancel class, but the school didn't. So my professor showed up and talked to us about the danger of just nonstop watching footage and what that can do to your psychological health. And so it was probably the most beneficial class that I could have gone to that night. Like I said, it was the second day of classes, so it was the first day for my Tuesday, Thursday classes. So if you had class, you had to go because you had to get your syllabus first day class. That's what you always get, is your syllabus and agenda and whatnot. So I did actually go to class, and so it was a good talk, but it was such an a-hole move that they didn't cancel class because, like I said, there were people that legit couldn't reach their family members. On my campus, there were dozens of people that had family members that were unreachable, that worked in the complex in one of the World Trade Center buildings, because there's more than one.
And I don't know when it'll happen, and I don't want to see it, right? But there will be another disaster. The next disaster, you will see footage from inside of the disaster.
Yeah.
Because smartphones did not exist when that happened. And I think the next one is going to shock people in a way.
There were digital cameras, so we did get more intimate images from it than I think, than certainly Pearl Harbor and other events like that. But you're right, it's not, in HD 4K, that kind of thing.
And in 9/11, I don't think they should have done this. They sanitized so much of the coverage, and then they never showed. There was a documentary maybe a year or two later, and there were firefighters in the lobby, and you kept hearing these loud bangs, and there were people hitting the roof outside on the canopy because they had to jump out of the... And
I have a newspaper from New York, one of the New York papers, of one of the people that jumped from the building, and that was the front page, and I saved that one. I saved a couple of them. I had friends whose boyfriends were union workers in the 5 boroughs, and all the unions chipped in to help search and rescue efforts, and then for the cleanup. And so we would get nightly, for weeks, we would get nightly updates from my roommate's, suite mate's boyfriend. He would just sort of trauma dump on his girlfriend about what he had seen that day. And so I have a different perspective because I know more about that process from someone who was in Ground Zero doing the work. And so it didn't seem sanitized to me because I wasn't looking at it from, mainstream media from Florida. I was, less than an hour away, and people 1 degree of separation from me were actually there. So different memories from that time.
All right. Serious night tonight. We do have Davey on tomorrow night.
Yep.
We have a couple of weeks that you can get to watch our movie.
Yeah, couple more weeks.
Couple more weeks because we did the last one early.
Final countdown, right?
The final countdown. The final countdown to the final countdown is still ongoing.
Yes.
So you have time to watch that. I'm sure that I will love the movie, and Davey will ruin my day this time whenever we get to that point.
July 30th is our day.
Yeah, the trusted news source in St. Augustine's on in the morning. That show that's on in the after, whatever. It's on in the morning, right?
It's on in the morning.
Just tune into the 904 Now Network, and you can watch that. We'll be back tomorrow night.
We're such a great lead-in, guys.
Davey, I just kind of... Everyone knows what we're talking about.
There's something else that happens in between the morning show and our show.
And apparently it's the most popular show on the network.
That's what I hear.
That's what I hear. Rumor has
largest viewership
that it's got the largest viewership
show.
because it's right smack dab in the middle of the day.
But you know the most ungettable viewer.
That would be, I have a job. I work.
Yeah, I have 4 jobs.
Do you watch that show every day?
Not every day.
Okay. All right. Once a week?
I watch it frequently, but not every day.
Once a month? Frequently is like once a month.
That's what frequently. Oh, I'm Darcy. I'm so sorry.
I knew I was going to be in trouble when I said that. All right. This is the Mike Davis Show. We will be back tomorrow. Tune into the Story Time in the morning.
Bye.